Hi, I'm Marilyn, and this is where I yap about books. This is my microphone, and she's a big girl, but she gonna get the job done.
So the mic actually didn't get the job done.
So for my first video, I wanted to show you guys my bookshelf and all of my books. This is my book nook. There's a tour on my TikTok, so if you guys want to go check that out, there will be a link to my TikTok below, and you can take a gander at that. It's also on my Bookstagram if you want to check out both. It's up to you. I'll leave it up to you. But yeah. Okay, so we have quite a few books here. Let's go ahead and start off with the Six of Crows duology. I read the first book and I loved it, and I immediately went and bought the second book, and unfortunately for me, I loved the first book just so much that I was looking up fan art and all kinds of other stuff on Pinterest, and I got a huge spoiler for the second book, and I have yet to read book 2 because of it. I do want to get to it eventually, I just don't know when. Hopefully next year. Next, we have Assistant to the Villain. I have both of the books that are out right now. I finished Assistant to the Villain a couple of days ago, and I gave it 5 stars, and I am about halfway through Apprentice to the Villain. If you don't know, Assistant to the Villain, I think it's part of a trilogy. I think there's only gonna be 3 books, but I could be wrong. It's basically a grumpy sunshine, slow burn romance, cozy fantasy, magical realism, where you have this really sunshiny girl who becomes an assistant to the village's, well, actually just the kingdom in general's villain. Like, that's his name. He goes by the Villain. Nobody knows what he looks like. It's giving very much like Rapunzel and Flynn Rider, in the sense that like they have wanted posters that look nothing like him, and she's really sunshiny and he's all brooding and whatever. And anyway, next is my personal holy grail. My holy grail, say what you will, I don't care. I don't care. It's the Ruthless Boys of the Zodiac series by Caroline Peckham and Susanne Valenti. Now hear me when I say this little book right here, and then the 4 that come after it. Susanne and Miss Caroline, I mean this so sincerely, y'all better never touch grass in your life. And when they say like, touch grass because you're being whatever, y'all better stay away from grass. Continue writing these books. I'm obsessed. So I know Ruthless Boys is coming to an end, which is why I have Zodiac Academy. I am excited to start this in 2025. Basically, Ruthless Boys of the Zodiac, if you don't know, or if you're new to the Zodiac Academy world, is the prequel series to Zodiac Academy. It takes place 5 years before the events in Zodiac Academy. It is a reverse harem, why choose, dark romance, fantasy. You have all of the tropes, really. You have like a golden retriever guy, you have a shadow daddy, you have a very morally gray FMC. There's just so much. This is like 10 out of 10 spice, pretty much in all of the books, I would say, but book 5 is insane. It is insane. I'm not even halfway through book 5, and it has the most spice of any book I've ever read. And not even just like regular spice, but like questionable spice. I'm being so for real, Caroline and Susanne. Y'all better step away from the grass. Then the last one on that shelf is the Lightlark Special Edition. It's really, really pretty. I'm not gonna read this till 2025. It's on my 2025 TBR. Let's put all these back and go to the second shelf. Okay, so for the second fantasy shelf, I have the Holy Grails, which I know I already said about Ruthless Boys, but I digress. There can be multiple Holy Grails. I have multiple shelves. I'm gonna start with Fourth Wing, because I was a reader for Harry Potter like a couple of years ago, loved that. Then I read a couple of books since, which I'll go over. And then I didn't read for a while, and then my friend was like, hey, you need to read Fourth Wing, and then you need to read ACOTAR. And I said, okay. And I read it on the plane. It's a very long plane ride. And I read it and I loved it, and I became insatiable. But I bought this in another country, so when I got back and they didn't have Iron Flame in paperback, I sobbed. But I bought it anyway, because obviously, hello. Have those, but they're not in the same format, which is totally fine because I also pre-ordered Onyx Storm, so that will be hardcover, but it will also be like special edition, like sprayed edges and stuff. So I'll have 3 different versions. I might try to do that for book 4 and 5. Instead of like having the whole series in 5 different versions, just have like the 5 different editions of each book. I think that would be cool because, you know, I already have it, so work with what you got, right? Then we have ACOTAR. I read ACOTAR after Fourth Wing almost immediately. Really love this series. Unfortunately, I haven't finished. I read book 1, 2, and 3 within a week. I do this thing where if I'm reading a series, I buy one book at a time. I'm not one of those people that buys the whole series at once, because then I'll get overwhelmed and then I won't read any of it. My mistake is though that when I finished book 3, I went and bought book 4 and 5, and I have not read them. I kind of got into a slump. It was so good. Like, Mist and Fury is my favorite. Duh, hello. Who do y'all think I am? You don't know. You don't know me yet. Hit that subscribe button. Let's get to know each other. Anyway, however, I've made a pact with myself that I'm gonna finish it by the end of the year, because if I don't, I'll feel bad that I read their siblings, but then I didn't read them, and then they're gonna be read in a different year, and then, I don't know, I feel like I'm gonna isolate them. Don't try to understand my brain, just like accept it. Moving on. And then, like, the last thing on that shelf is my 2 book of the month books. So I just got book of the month for the first time ever, and I did the $5 deal for October. It was like, yeah, you get your first book for $5, but then you do have to get 2 months after that at full price. Hey, totally fine. Hey, listen, hey, totally cool. With me personally, totally fine, because I got this for $5, say less. This was a phenomenal book, The Wild Huntress. I recommend this to everybody. This was a 5-star read for me as well. Oh, I haven't been saying which ones have been 5 stars. Mist and Fury was 5 stars for me. The other ones were 4 stars, Fourth Wing and Iron Flame. I would give them both 5 stars because I love them dearly with all my heart. Realistically though, probably like a 4.5, 4.75. But I'm gonna give them a 5-star. This is a 5-star. Ruthless Boys 3 is hilarious. None of them are 5 stars, I'm so sorry. I love them so much, but like, 6 of Crows. When I read it, it was really good, so I would give that maybe 4.75, just because I haven't finished it. This is a book that's based on like Welsh mythology, and there's a hunt. You're following 3 different main characters. This is the first book that I tabbed in, and the tabs, like the quotes that I underlined, are really pretty, so yep. And then finally, my November book of the month is The Teller of Small Fortunes. It is such a pretty book. I'm really excited. This is another YA. All I know about it is that the main character is an immigrant and she is a fortune teller, but she only tells small fortunes because when she has told big fortunes, something bad's happened. In this story, she is asked for help by 2 men on their search for a missing child. And then a baker, I think, comes along as well for some reason. And then there's a cat, which is funny because that makes 2 book of the month books that feature a cat. All right, so that's it for that one. And let's get to my last shelf. Okay, my last shelf is every other genre, everything in between, all the other stuff that's not fantasy. All right, so I think I'm gonna start with the books that I haven't finished yet or haven't started, and then we'll go from there. So the first one that I am excited to read because I watched the show and I loved it. World War II is my Roman Empire. I think about it a lot, so any type of media or anything I consume of that. So I got All the Light We Cannot See, which did win a Pulitzer Prize, which is awesome. I've also heard that like this book is just amazing, beautifully written, and I watched the show and it's absolutely stunning. So essentially what this book is about is this young girl is blind and her father has created like these models of the cities that they're in so that she can feel it with her hands and then be able to navigate around the city by herself. And then the Nazis invade and she gets separated from her father and she's alone, but she does a radio broadcast every night, or on a certain time, I don't know. And then on the other side of things, you're following the story of a young boy who has been kidnapped by the Nazis to be a radio operative and find illegal radio broadcasts so that they can find those people and, well, do what Nazis do to them. But he is there against his will, and he finds comfort in her broadcasts, and so he keeps her secret. He doesn't know who she is, and he doesn't want to know who she is because he doesn't want them to be able to find her. And so you're kind of following them from 2 different sides of the same story, more or less. It was a beautiful story in the TV show, so I can imagine it's a beautiful book. I'm excited. Next, I want to read The Secret History by Donna Tartt. This is a dark academia book, and I've heard a lot of really good things about it, but I don't really know what it is about. Something's going on. I think it's like a mystery as well. Maybe it's like a time back and forth situation. I have no idea, but I'm excited to read this. 2025 TBR. Next, this is not something that I'm like aiming to finish at any time. This is Upstream by Mary Oliver, and it's just different essays. This has been a really amazing book to read as a writer. I'm a writer, by the way. I haven't written anything you would have read unless you were very active on Wattpad around 2014, in which case, hey, look at us now. Anywho, it's just really good, like, for writers. It's kind of her process, but also just like different ways that she sees the world. I don't know, it's really good so far, and this has been one of the only books that I have like actually like annotated in this book and written notes. Yeah, like I've actually written notes and stuff. It's really good. Anyway, next is My Grandmother Asked Me to Tell You She's Sorry. This was gonna be a book club book between one of my best friends and my mom and me, but it was a little hard to get into. The writing style is very interesting. This is a very, very popular author though, and he has made some amazing books. He did A Man Called Ove, which turned into A Man Called Otto, and it starred Tom Hanks in a movie. I know this is gonna be a good book. It's just kind of hard to get into, but I wanna try and finish it. I think it's a really beautiful story. This girl, she's 7 years old, and she's really, really old, mature for her age. Her and her grandmother had a really funny, like, lighthearted and cool relationship. Her grandmother used to tell her all of these fantastical stories. They would get in a lot of trouble together. Her grandmother was like, I follow no rules, nothing, da 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 da. And then when her grandmother passes away, she leaves her a box of letters to deliver to people in this apartment building. And she meets all of these people, and I think she goes on this journey, like learning more about her grandmother, why she is the way she was, and you know, where all of her crazy stories came from. I have to really get in the zone for it. Next is The 7-Year Slip. There's two reasons I wanted to get this. One of my favorite booktubers, Haley Pham, she, I think, gave this book a 5-star, and I just trust her so much. But also because my mom and I were having a conversation the other day, and my mom was saying how she wishes there was like a book about people who are in the same place at different times. And it's not really about what this is about. It's just like, she was kind of saying that and it made me think about it. Essentially, this girl, she moves into her aunt's apartment, but when she walks in, there's a man sitting at the table. And who's this man? And it turns out he's from 7 years in the past. He lived there like 7 years in the past, and she is 7 years in his future, hence the name, The 7-Year Slip. So yeah, it's a romance, like a time travel romance type thing. So I'm excited for that. And then finally, I have, finally for the books that I haven't read yet, but I want to. Funny Story by Emily Henry. Again, this is another Haley Pham recommendation. I heard he is a Nick Miller type character, and that's really all I need to hear for me to want to read it, so I guess I can add Binding 13 to that. I haven't actually read it fully, but I am currently reading it. Next, for the books that I have read, I'm going to start with a absolute non-negotiable for me. The Happiest Man on Earth, The Life of an Auschwitz Survivor. This is my friend Eddie Jaku. Read the book, you'll get that too. This is an autobiography of Eddie Jaku's life during the Holocaust. Y'all, this is a gut punch of a book. Like I said earlier, the Holocaust and World War II, like, I think about it all the time. I consume a lot of media about it. I want to learn a lot about it. It's one of those like unfathomable things to me, and I think the stories of resilience and just the things that these people had to do and go through, and I don't know, it's one of those things where you can't believe it happened, but it did. And the last remaining survivors of the Holocaust are slowly dying out. I think it's important to learn as much about it as possible to keep that from happening again. And unfortunately, things like it very similarly are happening all over the world. So it is really important now more than ever to read and consume media about these things. This is essentially the way that he didn't lose faith in humanity, even in the face of the most atrocious things ever, and how his kindness to others and others' kindness to him. What does it mean to be a human, right? One of those books that just changes your life. So I really highly recommend this book to everybody. Next is The Serpent King by Jeff Zentner. This is an incredibly underrated book. Good storytelling, good characters, but this is also one of those books, whether you are gonna love it or you're not. This is well and truly just the story of 3 kids their senior year of high school, and they're each in very different situations in their life. The ever-present question of what comes next. Is there a life for me outside of this small Tennessee town? Am I capable of being more than the world is telling me that I am? Our main character is the son of a Snake Church preacher who has fallen from grace, and you also kind of go through his journey in the book of kind of religious trauma, a scandal, hatred from the town. You have a lot of that. There's a lot of themes in this book that are just really interesting, really good. But when I tell you this book will leave you gasping and going, what? Yeah, so I highly recommend. To me, it was a 5-star when I read it. Next is Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I think she wrote The 7 Husbands of Emily Hugo. Yes, she did, obviously, because this takes place in the same universe as The 7 Husbands of Emily Hugo. I haven't read that one. The dad figure in this book, I think, is supposed to be one of the husbands of Emily Hugo, or at the very least you have met him in that book. This one is the story of these 4 siblings who live in Malibu. Every year they throw this rager of a party on the Pacific Coast Highway, like their mansion in the Pacific Coast Highway. Every year it's pretty crazy, but they have a kind of estranged, weird relationship because of their childhood. They're also going back and forth between like their perspective in the present, which all takes place in one day. So it's like the first 7 hours of the day preparing for the party, and then the aftermath of the party is like the second half of the book. But during that first half of the book, you're also going back to their mom's perspective and everything that happened in their childhood, and that spans, like, it goes over years and years and years and years and years until it meets the present time and day. And then the last half of the book is just the party and after the party, and there is no more time switching. To me, when I was reading it, I was intrigued and I did like the story. I didn't really care for the ending. The ending kind of was so anticlimactic to me that I was like, ugh. But then as I retold the story to my mom, I liked it more. But to me, this is maybe like a 3.75. Then we have Icebreaker. Everybody knows Icebreaker, iconic. It was my first ever hockey romance. The banter's cute, the characters are cute, the romance is cute, the spice is fine. If you put Cruel Summer right when in the book it says, and then Cruel Summer by Taylor Swift started to play, press play and read that scene, the timing is insane. Like, it literally syncs up so well. It makes the scene so much better, so much hotter, so much funner, so much cool. Oh my gosh, love it, love it. So anyway, this book was probably like a 3.75. Y'all, I fumbled. Okay, so remember earlier when I was showing y'all books that I haven't read yet but I won't do? I missed a couple. Pucking Sweet and Pucking Wild by Emily Rath. These are not tropes that I'm really into, like surprise pregnancy and reverse age gap, but I trust Emily Rath with my life, so if anybody's gonna make me like those, or at least give them a chance, or at least enjoy reading it in this context, it's gonna be her. Because I read Pucking Around, and this is a 5-star read for me, holy grail. Pucking Around is one of those books that I just love so much. I will recommend this to everybody. It's great. Spice, 10 out of 10. Plot, 10 out of 10. Characters, 25 out of 10. Whenever I'm bored, whenever I just want to laugh, I go back and I reread it, or I reread parts of it. It's phenomenal. I love it. It's a reverse harem why choose hockey romance. Our girly pie, Rachel Price. She has this one night stand with this guy 2 months ago, and it's like magical, crazy, can't stop thinking about it. Turns out, he's on the team. He's also best friends with the equipment manager, who is her neighbor. You also have this Finnish goalie who doesn't want to take her medical advice, but he's super superstitious, and he needs her to sit next to him on the plane. Anyway, it's phenomenal. It's really good. Something I love about Emily Rath, which is why I trust her, is she knows what the girls want and what we crave, and she gives it to us in this form of novellas. So this is a prequel novella. This is the story of the magical one night stand. Read the book, you'll understand. Magical one night stand between Rachel Price and one of the boys. And this stroke of freaking genius, Emily Rath, Pucking Ever After Volume 1. So she does one of these after all of her books, and it's basically just bonus chapters. So some of them take place in between chapters that happen in the book. Some of them also take place after, months after, weeks after, years after. And you just see them in different like situations, and I love it so much. Alrighty, so that is my shelves. Those are all my books. The ones that are currently taking place in my little library that I DIY'd. So stained that myself. See that? That was me, love. That was me. There's a heart hidden in there somewhere. So anywho, I hope you enjoyed. I plan on making a lot more videos. I have a lot of content ideas for 2025, especially concerning my TBR. Links down below, and I hope y'all enjoy this video. I hope y'all stick around, and I'll see you when I see ya. Bye.